Hello, welcome back to HowtoDandD. Yes, today it's all about Boo's Astral Menagerie monsters. Who would have guessed? Yes, I'm going to be flipping through the book and talking about the book as I go. And yes, I do have notes, so you don't need to worry about me just making stuff up as I go. I will actually have notes to read from, so don't worry. I have thought about this a little bit. In any case, let's just have a quick look at the chat before I get started and start up my poll here. And see who we have here. Slow down, Fred. Slow down. Okay. All right, so I'm putting up the poll now. And AJ's here. Hello, AJ Pickett. AJ, dude. I wouldn't expect you would be watching this, but hey, yes, subscriber only. I'm gonna make it clear now to people who are expecting for this review. For those of you who are here, and if you know anything about me and you know what I'm like, my sense of humor can go off the rails at times. I can assure you that what I have to say will probably go off the rails a lot, and you need to take what I say with a grain of salt. So please, I don't know how else to present this book but to try to make it humorous, because I don't know what else to do with this book. So that doesn't mean that I won't give you the most objective and my opinion on what I think the quality of the book is. That's not true. But a lot of what I have to say about this book, it's hard to take a lot of the things in here seriously because they're not supposed to be serious. They're actually pulled from all sorts of places. So yeah, so don't get too upset about what I have to say. Don't take it to heart too much. Yeah, consider this my attempt to make a book review that you've probably seen on many other channels a lot more interesting. I don't know how well I'm going to do that, but we'll try. Noroke, hello, how are you? A patron of the channel, thank you for being here. And for those of you who don't know, AJ Pickett is the reason why I now do Monster Law. He finally convinced me. Nacho Man is here, also a patron. Hello, how are you doing? Who else have we got here? We've got Dan. Hello, Dan. Also a patron, been a long time patron and also a moderator. Okay, so we've done all the highs. My suggestion to you is please grab some food, some drink, get comfortable. There's a lot to say and not a lot of time to do it. So let's just get on with the task at hand, which is go through this book and discuss it, because I don't know what else to do, frankly. All right, where am I? Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Weller, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons because I usually do, but also too because the channel is called HowtoDandD. So we're talking about the book, Boo's Astral Menagerie. This is part of the Spelljammer Adventures in Space series. It's that box set that we were all sort of wondering about whether we should buy or not. And this is I would say the second book in the series. I think the last book I consider to be the adventure. In any case, that's beside the point. Let's have a talk about this particular book and what it has to offer. As far as I'm concerned, there are some surprises in here and there's some things I don't like. Like everything that I have to say about a book, there's usually some good and some bad. Okay, so please take it with a grain of salt. So obviously we have our cover. I think the standard cover is better than the alternative cover, in my opinion. I don't find myself drawn to the alternative covers, frankly. I mean, whether that's the right way to think or the wrong way to think, I don't know that really matters. But for me, I prefer the standard cover. Okay, so we have a contents page. The contents page pretty much does everything that an index would. So I don't feel like this book needed to have an index, for those of you who are wondering about that. So I'm not worried about there not being an index at all because they do have a good contents page. What I will say in terms of the book tools, there are some book tools here. This is a very small book, so you don't have a lot of space to actually work with. The stat blocks by challenge rating is kind of pointless in my opinion. I think it's actually a waste of very limited book space. It might be useful for a beginner dungeon master, but ultimately, because there's so few monsters in here, I don't think it was necessary in the first place. There's also a couple of pages designated for the astral encounter tables. I don't think they're needed either. It's basically just a list of monsters generally. There's a couple of times where there's sort of like an interesting suggestion or encounter idea presented, but the vast majority are just lists of monsters. And you don't really need that when you're playing the game. I mean, as a dungeon master, we can make up lists ourselves. Now, again, this might be a tool that a beginner dungeon master would use, but I don't think that it really helps a dungeon master, frankly. Okay, I'm going to go through each monster bit by bit and tell you what I sort of have to say about them. The Arturk, or Artat, is it Arturks? I think it's Arturks, something like that. Basically, this is an intelligent star-shaped plant with a very shallow background, frankly. I was kind of a bit disappointed. It's been poached from Day of the Triffids, if you weren't aware. If you're aware of that particular mini-series or the movies or the TV series, Day of the Triffids is pretty well known. The special powers of the Arturk include spider climb, casting spells, aggressive French kissing apparently, and spitting microwave energy. I didn't see that coming. Mechanically, I think it's a mixed bag of strong, being quite strong for its challenge rating, frankly, and being reasonable. I am glad to see a monster that sort of sits within the realm of being about right to being a little bit more powerful than that, rather than being weaker. But I did know that they do have some very low DCs for some of the spell casting and that tongue attack, the French kiss thing that I was talking about. So I was a bit disappointed by that fact. One of the things I did notice, it's very hard for me to comment on the mathematics of this book, frankly. I was going to do it, and in the end I decided to give up because it was too hard, frankly. I didn't think it was going to be possible. The next one, we have the Astral Elves. These are space elves. They have a detailed origin story, as far as I can tell, but I feel like it's a very boring origin story. Maybe that's just me, personal preference. As expected, the Astral Elves do elf stuff like cast spells, teleport. They zap idiots that get in their way, and with radiation, that is. And they may summon, if you're really unlucky, a very angry solar dragon, which, frankly, you don't want to deal with. Mechanically, I think these are a bit of a mess. I would say generally very weak in terms of attack bonuses and damage output. Other than that, that's the only sort of flaw I saw. I'm not going to comment on the mechanics of every single stat block or every single monster, by the way. Autognomes are mechanical gnomes with a story weaker than the movie RoboCop. I don't think that they're not cool. I like the idea of them, but the story behind them is pretty weak. The Autognome shocks your murder hobos and says really cute one-liners when it malfunctions. It feels like a sort of a mini Arnold Schwarzenegger from Terminator, but just with the cuteness factor turned up. We also have the Braxit. I don't know. I am still trying to see that word, and is that actually a word? Braxit. Is an armor-plated bipedal dinosaur, not related to the purple dinosaur Barney. The Braxit suffers from some sort of acidic bad breath and can cast spells. I didn't see that one coming. And has its own energy field generator. Okay, psionic field, shield, one of those. It felt like that's what I had to say. Okay, Broag. Is it a Broag? I don't know. I mean, it's a giant, right? It's a Broag's a giant. I mean, we had to have a giant, and of course, if it's a space giant, like what would you do? You'd make it orange. So this is an orange-skinned giant with 4 arms that speaks in sign language and has no lore about its history whatsoever. The awesome special feature, though, is hideous render that rips the victim into 4 pieces when they fall to 0 hit points. I am so happy to see something like this. We actually have a scary monster here. Like, this is the sort of monster that will screw up your players big time. Will they cry if they lose their character and have to go and get reincarnated? Because probably Raise Dead isn't going to work, but reincarnate, you might get away with that. I didn't see that one coming. I always considered a lot of the things that Wizards of the Coast do to be quite tame. This is not tame. This is pretty brutal. Like that's cool. Chewanga astronauts. These are like space traveling elemental spirits with a really wild hairstyle, as far as I can tell. They avoid everyone and will really be encountered. So I don't know when you're going to get to use them. These slippery magical spellcasters are begging to bestow magical gifts on travelers and help travelers out. If they can actually deal with their big person anxiety and complexes, because I don't think they want to actually have too much to do with anybody, yet they want to help. That seems to be what they're designed for. Essentially, their stat block looks like that. In any case, interesting. Next one. The Cosmic Horror is a colossal far realm octopus, basically, that slipped into the astral plane, and it's basically been ripped from Cthulhu fiction by Lovecraft. The strange ability for the Cosmic Horror consists of teleportation, a very frisky tentacle attack, farting, and whispering horror stories to you. So, yeah, it's a good time. The Dowa, is it Dowa? Basically, these are secret merchant penguins. It's a penguin. It's a secret merchant penguin that acts like a spy when they have nothing to actually hide. Maybe there's a government analogy here. I'm not too sure. The powers of the Dowa are all about the mind, with really less flash than Professor X. You get telepathy, you get detect thoughts, and you get a very gentle nibble attack if you need to do anything with that. The aesthetic. Is it an aesthetic? And basically it's a jelly creature. You know, this is a giant jellyfish spaceship created by the Regar that dissolve other creatures. And of course they fly through space, wild space, the astral sea. But yeah, you don't want to actually have to contend with them. They're not nice. The unusual skills for the aesthetic are they have tentacle wrestling. There's a lot of tentacle wrestling and tentacles in Spelljammer, apparently, with a very painful gooey squeeze and a warp drive sabotage ability, apparently. I don't hate this creature. Okay, it's fine. I do like it. It's different. It's jellyfish, giant jellyfish in space. Why not? The Eyemonger is a sentient, single-eyed asteroid that swallows creatures and talks to rocks. I think that's what they were trying to communicate to me. Surprisingly, this stone-shaped critter is related to a beholder because it prefers to actually a diet of spellcasters. Like, it prefers to eat them because its gut has an anti-magic field inside. So once they swallow the spellcaster, there's really nothing that a spellcaster can do because it's going to get digested very quickly, and they've got no way of using their most useful tool, which is magic. Yes, it looks really goofy, I know, I'm aware. The Fayar. Is it Fayar? Is it a Far creature? It's a Fayar, something like that. It has many eyes. It's a tentacled beach ball, basically, that feeds on nightmares with a receding gum, or a receding gum line, as far as I can tell. So they've obviously been brushing too hard, and the gums are receding. The Fayar like to be invisible while strangling a chew toy. So basically, you are a chew toy for them, but they're not necessarily going to kill you, I think. And they will buffet you with their tentacles, of course, while scaring the victim. And what are they really trying to do? It's like the Matrix. They're trying to turn their victim into a biological battery. They feed on fear. So it's probably to their advantage to just keep coming back every night and sucking more of your fear up. It's a monster I've seen before. I was tempted to actually talk about this monster in the past, but I haven't got there, so we'll see how we go. But I do know that AJ Pickett has a very good video on the topic, and you'll probably get far more from that video than this particular book. Gayjack? Is it Gayjack? I think it's Gayjack. Gayjack. It's a gigantic, intelligent New Zealand weta, as far as I can tell, that understands all languages, but is mute, so it won't matter that it understands languages because it still can't talk to anybody. The favourite pastime of the Gajak is, of course, probing a meat sack's mind while chewing off limbs with their mandibles. Yeah, okay. Look, if you're going to make any kind of creature that's real into a full-blown monster for Dungeons and Dragons, I think the New Zealand Weta is a good example, and this certainly looks like a New Zealand Weta to me, or it's certainly similar in many respects. Okay, next, the GIF. The GIF are a snobby, space-faring, hippo-skilled creature with very impressive gun skills. There's no evolutionary background here. That doesn't mean that the GIF don't have any kind of background or story behind them, but there's not much in this book. Shooting living things is what they do best with muskets. They have specialized muskets to do all sorts of things, and they like to blow shit up with bombs. Basically, that's the GIF. The Githyanki has minimal lore in this book, and it refers the reader to the Monster Manual and the Monsters of the Multiverse book. So if you expected to see, I mean, there's words there, but it's not really going to tell you much about the Githyanki. The Githyanki specialize in spellcasting, teleportation, blasting problems with brute force. Basically, that's what they do best. And contending with all of the nasty things in the astral plane and astral sea that have caused them problems over the years. And we're talking about mind flayers and various other creatures. Okay, one of my favorite creatures in this book, and there's not a lot on it in this book, unfortunately, the Hadozi. It's a flying space monkey with missing lore due to social media outrage. Look, I'm not going to comment on the social media outrage other than to say I don't get it, okay? Clearly, the Hadozi are based on the flying monkeys from the Wizard of Oz. So if you have a problem with the Wizard of Oz, you have a problem with the Hadozi. Or do you have a problem with the Hadozi and then you follow up and you have a problem with the Wizard of Oz? The special features of the Hadozi are similar to a cat, where they can land on their feet unharmed, dodge, throw in shoes, and escape the grasp of an excited toddler. That seems to be the extent of their special features as far as I can tell. I still like this as a spacefaring creature. I like them. I like the original story that I read in Monsters of the Multiverse before they changed it to. The Jammer Leech attaches itself to the hull of a Spelljammer ship to feed off the magic. It has excellent information on its biology, its life cycle, and its habitat. I was really impressed with this particular entry. I think this is one of the stronger entries here, and I'm fine with having a leech that operates this way. A good job, Wizards of the Coast. You did yourself a service by actually doing something decent with this thing. The next one is the Kandori. I think it's the Kandori. They are massive space humpback whales with no mouth and a blinding spotlight power. Basically, they have little spotlights on them, and they can use those spotlights to do things to you. It has a really good biological explanation, but no origin whatsoever as far as I can tell here. The Kandori, it's basically been poached, I believe, from Disney's Fantasia animated movie with the flying whales. I mean, it's pretty obvious where it came from. If you're not familiar with the Fantasia animated movie, you should go and watch it. It's a great time. It's very musical. It's not the kind of normal Disney thing. And it was very popular. So I think that's where it came from. The lunar dragon lives in a lair by burrowing into a desolate moon to raise its young dragons and deprive creatures of their treasures. That seems about right. Yep. It has very basic habitat information and ecology. You can probably get a lot more from a particular YouTube channel. I would suspect that AJ Pickett has probably just about covered all of the dragons by now. The lunar dragon can become a ghostly being with really fresh, minty breath that will turn you into an ice block. Like it'll freeze you solid if you're not careful. I like the idea of this creature. I just don't feel like there's enough story behind it to make it easy for me to include into an adventure. Right, so there's a couple of different versions of it, by the way. So you get your wormling, your young, your adult, and your ancient. The megapede is an enormous centipede that carries eggs. It has tiny lore entry there. I mean, it's very small, non-existent evolutionary stories or story behind it. It just really describes what this thing does. The special property of the megapede is that it sucks out the life energy if you get too friendly with it, and it tries to blow up a victim's mind. I mean, that's essentially what it does. The next one is actually the Mercane, an ancient blue technology and magic item merchant that dresses in a robe that communicates with a hive mind. But we don't know where it came from, apparently, because there's no information about that. The original, I think this is basically the original arcane creature from Spelljammer or Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. If you are aware of the arcane, it looks very much like that as far as I can tell. I think it just got a name change. I don't know why they would change the name, but they appear to have done so. The Mercane casts spells that are sort of psionic spells, or are they really psionic? They just look like spells to me. They've just got the word psionic there. Does that make it psionic? I suppose it does. And they wield a fancy blade. They have a fancy blade with them. Murder comets are a flaming, screaming stone face created by an evil spellcaster to create havoc. I mean, essentially, I think that's basically throw a spanner in the works and cause untold strife for everybody, which I'm fine with. I don't have an issue with that at all. This monster is a guided missile that spits fire and explodes, and it kind of makes it a true murdering rock. I mean, I think if you want this to do bad things to your player characters, this will certainly do it. I'm going to have trouble with this one. The Nethrogi, my God, is that a real word? I can't get my tongue around it. It's basically a crab-like brain collector born in the far realm whose background and behavior is wonderfully terrible. I think this is one of the coolest monsters I've seen. It's a powerful spellcaster that it can extract, cook, and eat your brain in no time whatsoever at all. Like it'll pull it out, give it a good cook, microwave it, and then eat it, and she's all good. It's like barbecue time with your brain. The Nyogi. This is an evil, intelligent, oversized, long-necked spider monster that enslaves all beings with gruesome... It's got a really gruesome origin and purpose, which makes it kind of your skin crawl. When I read this and the entry that they provided, I was actually surprised because I think what they've done is they've snuck a lot of lore into here, even though the entries are supposed to be about the stat blocks. There's actually very little about the specific differentiation between the stat blocks. What they've done is somebody's clearly snuck in the information we really wanted, which was the story about the Nyogi in general. Only the Nyogi Void Hunter has cool spells and mind-controlling powers, unfortunately. The rest are pretty basic. They're not doing very much as far as I can tell. Plasmoids. Plasmoids, it's a big favourite for people. They are intelligent ooze with a well-developed biology and reproduction process. I was really impressed by the information provided for that. It was very good. You can squeeze the plasmoid into all the wrong cracks if you want to, while it holds its breath for a very long time and then slams you with a slimy fist. So yes, a fun time. And yes, it can use weapons if it really wants to, but will it want to do that? The Persilon, I think it's the Persilon. They're super intelligent spellcasting carnivores. It's basically a horse worm, or a worm horse, whose goal is to make the universe their banquet. Occasionally you get a mutant that has 2 worm heads. I like those the most. This weird monster serves psychic brain-crushing juice to explorers. Like it's really about crushing your brain juice out. I think that's what we were trying to do here with this creature. I'm all for that. It sounds good to me. The Rhaegar. These are rainbow people caught in a paradox, as far as I can tell after reading their entry. Just back from a street parade, possibly, that have built-in nightlights. Not my favourite creature, frankly. I think the original concept behind it, I love the idea, But once I see the after effect of like what they actually look like when they're in this form, it's not my favorite. Casting spells, spinning forks or tridents, summoning golems, and controlling flying jellyfish really separates the Rhaegar from the other astral navigators that we get. Well, it does it? Yes, I suppose it does. Okay. Is it a Scavers? Scavers are flying Cyclops sharks with spikes and a headlight, as far as I can tell. The Scaver will chomp on your body and bones, swallow a creature whole, and the Void Scavers actually project fear into your mind, because you should fear sharks. And this is basically a space shark. If you hadn't figured it out, it is a space shark. Okay, very cool monster. I love this. Terrifying in every respect. Solar dragons. They're serpent-like behemoths with a nebulous gleaming wing or wings that have, I mean, it's definitely got to have a Godzilla atomic breath as far as I can tell. And it lives near stars. And it was born in a star. Great. Awesome. We want that. Its special abilities or actions for the solar dragon are bad breath, which will vaporize your character. I'll blind them with a superior high beam. Like if you get high beamed at night when you're driving at night, like this is going to be much worse. There's a couple of different versions. So you get the wormling, the young, the adult, and the ancient, for those of you who don't know. That's there. You get all of them stat blocks you want. A lot of stat blocks. Space clowns. These are evil, flesh-eating carnival performers jacked up on drugs that wield paint guns, as far as I can tell. This bizarre monster is from the old horror movie, I believe, The Killer Clowns from Outer Space from 1988. I kind of like the fact that they exist. Space clowns use magic to take part in performing pranks, deceiving, and butchering their audience. Then they explode and pop like a balloon. Even though they kind of look a bit strange, when you look at what they can do and the lore behind them, which is fairly minimal, I think we can watch the movie and probably get a bit more information. They are horrendous. I kind of really like the space clowns. Even though they come off as being goofy, they're pretty terrifying if you ask me. The next one, we get space eels. Space eels, they are basically a flying multi-eyed purple eel. There's nothing else to mention about this. I mean, we could say it has a bite and a spine tail thingy going on, but yeah, I'm not that excited. We get space guppies, which is basically a gold flying space fish with multiple eyes. Like it's a goldfish that flies with multiple eyes. Did we need this? Do we frankly need a stat block for this? It's got a challenge rating of 0. Who's going to use this? Do we really want to face a space eel in a combat? Could you just not tell us that we have in the Astral Sea, we have eels, fish, whales, and various other things. They don't actually need to be a combat monster. They could just be mentioned. Give us a paragraph. Give us something else. I would have preferred that. I'm not fond of these ones. Okay, I'm not fond. Giant space hamsters. These are smart, telepathic, cute, and furry space rodents created by wizards again. Apparently, wizards do a lot of creating. The space hamster go for the eyes, of course, because they know that blind creatures can't eat them because they are not that big. They're pretty small. And so they make sort of like a nice hors d'oeuvre. So they have to blind you. Go for the eyes. Look, if you're going to have Spelljammer and you're going to have monsters, you probably do need to have some information on space hamsters and giant space hamsters, because it's kind of part of the whole trope and ethos. The whole theme behind Spelljammer is, we're going to have these. We have Space Mollymock. A Space Mollymock, it's basically an albatross or a seabird. And yeah, that's right. You saw it. At this point, I think the design team need a good spanking for putting this stuff in here. It's challenge rating 0. Why are we going to need to do this? We can just tell them that they exist. You've got albatross in your astral sea in wild space that fly around. Anyway, we have space swine. This is actually, the space swine is inspired by the Muppet Show's Pigs in Space on steroids. Like, I think Chris Perkins must have made this up while eating some magic mushrooms himself, because it's kind of silly. It's got a low challenge rating. You're not really going to, I mean, you might ride it, you might eat it. It's really not going to be a fight. I mean, it's got a little bit of a bite. It might nibble on you a little bit, but that's really about it. You're going to be attacked by flying pigs. I mean, come on. Yeah. All right. Anyway, you can see I'm not a huge fan of that particular creature. Look, I can't be a fan of everything, people. I can only be a fan of the things that I like. And so, yeah, this is going to be a little bit biased. I did warn you that you needed to take everything I say with a grain of salt, or a grain of something. The Sauron are space lizards. Sauron? Space lizard folk. Space lizard folk. That's right, we get space lizard folk. There's no lore. There's no habitat information. There's no ecology. No tactics. No origin story at all. There's nothing. Like, there's text words there, but there's nothing. And I thought, aren't psionic powers and defiling from the Sauron a specialist ability that they have from Dark Sun? Isn't this creature from Dark Sun, and now it's here? I do feel like maybe Dark Sun is getting Deep Six. Not really surprised by that. But yeah, do we need them here? Were they worth saving? Could we not have put something else here? Because yeah, we get 2 big stat blocks, a bit of artwork, and nothing that really tells us anything, frankly. Starlight Apparition. These are sort of a spectral copy of souls who died in space that serve as guides sent by a deity. It's a ghost mechanically with radioactivity. If you hadn't figured it out, that's basically what it is. Mechanically, it's a ghost, and it's radioactive. Next, we have the Thicreen. These are intelligent carnivores. It's basically a cockroach humanoid that communicates with sign language and telepathy. These critters do it all. Like, they leap, they parry, they hide, they drain life force, they cast spells, and they hit you with a kitchen sink. Like, literally, they can hit you with very much, like, everything. They've got a lot of arms, if you hadn't noticed. They've got multiple arms, actually. I actually like the Thicreen. Again, I do feel like this is being pulled from Dark Sun and placed into Spelljammer. I do believe there was another insect creature that wasn't the Thicreen that existed in the Spelljammer campaign world, but apparently Thicreen are here. I don't mind so much because I like the Thicreen. Okay, they've always been a fun monster to include. Vampirates. These are vampires turned, or should I say, these are pirates turned vampires rather than vampires turned pirates. Although I suppose both could work. They feed on a creature's energy, a bit like the old horror science fiction movie called Life Force. If you ever saw that movie, where basically vampires are land or are in a spaceship and they find that the crew is all but dead, apart from one individual, and then on there is a whole lot of people they don't know who the heck they are, and they just happen to be vampires that suck out your life force. They don't suck your blood. They don't need to do that. These are kind of a bit like that. The vampire captain is clearly based on the character John Silver, the cyborg from the movie Treasure Planet. I think Treasure Planet had a big impact on the designers here. Vampirates have all of the best toys to play with. When I looked at the different things that they could do, they kind of do everything, and they're fun. Yeah, I like the Vampirates. Our last monster here is the Zordar. Zordar is basically an armored flying bipedal tank that casts the wish spell. Like, we have a monster that casts the wish spell. Oh yeah. Which would create, like, they're apparently created by an unknown entity to do something that no one understands. Like, that's very confusing. If I had to sum up the Zordar, I would say these are Space Knight Genies. That's right, it's a Space Knight Genie. So how do you feel about being forced to teleport into the Zordar's crushing fists and then have it reduce the party to the size of a snail or into actual snails or slugs with the wish spell, or simply just disintegrate you or make you cease to exist, like do a Thanos snap and you are just ash. Like this thing could do that. Of course, it will be, once it casts the wish spell, it will be ash itself, because that's destroyed when it uses that particular feature, which I have no problem with. I actually kind of like that idea. So look, there's some stuff in here that's good. There's some stuff that I don't like quite so much in terms of what's in the book. But there's a couple of things I'm going to say in terms of sort of an overview or summary of this book, because there are some things I would like to point out. And I think the first thing I need to say about a book like this is I don't have a problem with the size of the book. I actually don't have a problem with the size of the book. The size of the book is not the issue. I think the front cover illustration of Minsc and Boo riding on a solar dragon is fine. But it does suit a much younger audience rather than the people who first were introduced to Spelljammer through Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. I think that the older audience will struggle to contend with what they see here in terms of some of the artwork, particularly the front cover, because it does look very cartoony. And I understand if you don't like that. It's still fun. The artwork is a mixed bag of kind of wacky kids' cartoons. There are some incomplete conceptual artwork here as well, and some very excellent creepy illustrations. Stuff that I really did enjoy, I did like. I would say that the 10 horrifying and bizarre monsters created for the Spelljammer compendium for Dungeons & Dragons 5e on D&D Beyond should have been in this book. And the more silly or boring creatures that don't do very much and have like a challenge rating of 0 should have probably been excluded, because there were 10 monsters that were pretty good in that compendium, and they're not in this book, and I wish they were. The book overall is very expensive for less than a stellar product. I don't think that necessarily for the price you're paying that it's necessarily worth a purchase. But then again, if you've never been exposed to Spelljammer, you may not mind that too much. I don't recommend this book as a purchase, frankly. I think that you could probably do better by purchasing something off Drive-Thru RPG that's a bit older, and it might not have stat blocks for it, but it's going to have a lot more story stuff with it, and you'll get a lot more. I'm not saying that the Spelljammer Monstrous compendium was huge, but I still feel like you would have done better to get a product like that. So yeah, kind of a bit hit and miss as far as I'm concerned. Look, all I want to say is, like, if you liked this, great. If you found this useful, me flipping through, talking about the different monsters, fantastic. If you have any comments you would like to make, any questions that you have, please put them in the comments section. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. Okay, give me a second. Just get myself together and drinking some water. I've been talking for a long time, a very long time. I don't know how I'm supposed to put in ad breaks into that one. That probably won't happen. And anyway, let's go to the chat. Let's see what people have to say. I suspect right now that there'll be some people who don't agree with me. It's perfectly fine to disagree with what I have to say about this book. Okay. And space galleons. Yeah. So let's go through the chat fairly quickly. Oh my gosh, you guys have been chatting a lot. Let's have a look at the poll here. Do you like silly monsters? Yes, 80%. So silly monsters you get in this thing, for sure. You will definitely get silly monsters. So if you're worried about getting silly monsters, no, you will definitely get them. You're not missing out at all. No, 20%. For those of you who don't like silly monsters, this book is not for you. I think you would find the free PDF or free monsters that are part of the Spelljammer compendium, Monstrous compendium. I think you'll like those monsters though, because they are kind of space horror monsters. Well, at least, except for maybe one. One of them's not that space horror like. The rest are pretty freaky. Do you know what I mean? So yes, and then okay, then we got undecided 9%. I'm not surprised that there's a few people who are undecided. Now, for those of you who don't know, AJ Pickett has a YouTube channel, and I mean, you probably know who he is, okay? He does Dungeons and Dragons monster lore, or just lore, or does his own thing. He's been doing a bit of homebrew stuff. You should go and check him out if you don't know about him. I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. I said hi to Norok, who's a patron. Hello, how are you? Nacho Man, also a patron. Hello. I said hi to you, Denai. Let me just move my microphone a little bit, just to make it a little bit easier for me to actually see what's going on here. For those of you who are wondering why the sound might be a bit low, YouTube is just fiddling around with stuff, and that's affecting it. Right now, if I were to turn up my gain, for example, I would actually go into the red. I'm actually just hovering in the green and yellow section with the distance that I have from the microphone and the settings that I have set up. So it's all about software at this point rather than my settings. I'm sure YouTube will eventually fix it because they usually do. This is not the first time it's happened. Nacho Man, 20% off D&D stuff. So might treat myself to a new book, but probably not Spelljammer. Fair enough. That's all right. I mean, you don't have to love the book. I mean, I've shown you what it is. I've talked about it. I'm sure somebody, since I'm doing this in 4K, will have screenshotted the pages they are really interested in. Like somebody was telling me in the comments, they screenshot my videos because they can then see, because I show people what's in the books. And so I guess screenshots are the way to go, isn't it? Apparently. Anyway. Right, so now I've said hi to Dan. Dan is a patron and also a moderator here. Let me see. Let me just go through this chat fairly quickly. Good night. Yes. Good night, Dan. Is Dan gone? Gibblings is a bit. I would take the gibblings as a bit serious. Yeah. Oh dear. Anyway. So Norok. Oh really? I didn't notice. So you're telling me that that AJ's link to that Boulette live stream, or is it the video, the edited version, brought you to me? Well, I'm glad to know that. I'm not surprised. AJ is trying to look after me. I'm aware of that. I've never used a random encounter chart in my life. AJ, I make up my own. I don't use random charts. The only time I would use a random chart, frankly, is if if it had stuff that wasn't just a list of monsters. So I just don't see any value. And that's a whole bunch of pages that could have been designated to actually monsters that we care about. I think some of the monsters in the Monstrous Spelljammer, Monstrous compendium are awesome. I just wish they were in this book. Nacho, as I said, take it with a grain of salt. French kissing, okay, that just refers to the tongue attack. I could only describe it as that. It's a tongue attack. It's a French kiss. Yeah. You use them in the Feywild. Okay, all right. Are you talking about the random encounter charts that you use in the Feywild, or are you talking about French kissing? I mean, you have to tell me. Be specific. Without the scroll to oppose them, the astral elves are just there. Like it's like. I think Tweaky from Buck Rogers. I suppose, yeah, I would say Tweaky from Buck Rogers does make sense. If we consider if we consider what the autognome is here, it probably is Tweaky from Buck Rogers. I have to agree. Burrog, mate. I'm already lost. Thank you for trying to help me pronounce it. Chawinga. AJ is actually a lot better at talking for anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour non-stop than I am. And I'm still, I mean, even though I do a lot of live streams, I'm still not that good at it. I'm getting better. I think I'm getting better. Yeah, Buck Rogers was definitely my sexual awakening, or sexual fantasies. I like, yeah. Erin Gray, absolutely. Yes, yes, I absolutely agree. And it was, I mean, like every week, Buck Rogers was with another lady. I mean, it's really it's a guy thing. It's a guy thing. I mean, I don't expect the ladies to be interested. I get it. I mean, yeah, Chris Perkins does love the Chewinga. He puts them in everywhere. He puts them everywhere. I just like they're terrified of everything, but they still want to help. Like it's a weird one. The penguins from the Zoo movies. Ah, all right. I look, the cloaks sort of they looked familiar. So he's actually pulled it from a an animated movie, hasn't he? I feel like we've discovered a secret. Norok, this is a dream come true. My favourite channels together, nerding out with the community. Glad to I didn't miss this one. Hey, look, AJ, myself, and other people do hang out together. That's why the Dungeon Master Roundtable. I mean, AJ's been a huge part of that, and still is, and probably will be in the future, but with some criteria, which I totally understand because I kind of feel the same way. But I'm not going to say what it is. So we'll go with that for now. There was a Black Week sale at my local game store yesterday. Brought about everything I didn't have except Spelljammer and Critical Role stuff. To be fair, I feel like Matthew Mercer's first adventure book that he put out for Wizards of the Coast was actually pretty good. I mean, I looked at it. Structurally, it's really cool. So I wouldn't give him a hard time. If anything, I mean, he forced Wizards of the Coast to put a lot of stuff in there that they wouldn't have put in. And I mean, because Matthew Mercer can throw it around, like because he's got a bit of clout right now. He got an index in there as well. Like, I mean, it might not have been a perfect index, but I mean, it's how often do we see an index in a Wizards of the Coast product, or when do we see them? I mean, he forced them to include every single playable race that this world has that he wanted to have there. So you didn't have to go and buy another book. If you buy that book, you get everything you need for that particular adventure in that campaign world. You don't have to go anywhere else. I love Matthew Mercer for doing that. And I think he's the one responsible because I remember Chris Perkins calling him out and saying, hey, Matthew, next time you do a book, we don't have to put everything in the book. You know what I mean? So even Strixhaven, no, I'm not buying. So look, the only problem for Strixhaven for me in terms of a book, and probably why you'll never see a review, is because I'll never buy it. Yeah, pronounced Fair Fred. Fair Fred, yes, that's right. Fair Fred. I mean, so you got to fear something. Fair Fred, fear something. I just don't want to go back to school. I mean, I don't want to fantasize about going back to school. So since Strixhaven is about going back to school, even if it's a wizard school, I don't fantasize about being Harry Potter and being at Hogwarts because I'm just the wrong age. I'm older. I'm like 51. I'm terrified of the idea of having to go back to school. I would have nightmares about being a teenager again. I like the idea of not having to worry about all of the physical ailments, but the other aspects I do. No way, I don't want that. You're looking to get the Curse of Strahd, Tomb of Annihilation, and Tasha's. Been waiting for the sale to come back. So Norok, I don't know where you are, but right now, Amazon, if you're in North America, the only time it's going to work is if you're in North America. North America's actually got, Amazon has actually got a sale going. You buy 2 books and you get a third one free. So I would have a look at the list. I put it on my community tab. Check it out. You of course, Dan, you absolutely, you're the right place to go. This is this is terrifying. A space hippo. Normal ones are crazy. Yes, that's right. I'm surprised we don't have space hippo that will swallow you whole. Like if you are a gnome or a halfling, like they could swallow you whole, just because they can. Yeah, they do look pretty human, don't they? Star Frontiers. Yeah. Hello, William. How are you? How's it going? Um, so I think AJ, maybe that was, I think the online thing was done. We haven't seen a volume 2. There's only volume 1. That's all they've put out. is the volume 1. And they haven't done anything else, which kind of annoys me, because there was some really cool stuff that I would have liked in the book rather than online. Do you know what I mean? Now it's got yeah. And I think they picked some of the best monsters, they stuck them there, and that was our sort of like our, let's see if we can use that to drive people to the books, only to find that people won't necessarily be very happy with them. I think a lot of the space horror element was in the Spelljammer Monstrous compendium, and then we get the more silly stuff in the book. Dude from Belgium. Hello, dude from Belgium. The social media ruckus about HowtoDandD is, I mean, I'm not going to go into it. All I'm going to say is that give it enough time and the word monster will be deleted from Dungeons and Dragons, because it will be considered offensive and demeaning and prejudiced, or racist or something like that. I have joked about this before, but considering some of the things that the people have thrown forward, I'm obviously not of the same opinion. But then again, I'm a white guy, I'm a man, and I'm 51, so my opinion is not necessarily going to go down well, so just ignore everything I just said. The Kadori look badass, they do. I agree, they do look badass. Put something offensive in there, wait for the outrage to market the book and social media for the company for free. Then they edit the text to making the book instantly obsolete. Yeah, it is pretty obvious, AJ. We've had this discussion before about how this is working. Well, okay, so HowtoDand's were slaves. So basically, if you don't understand what's going on here, HowtoDand are basically the space monkeys, are the flying monkeys from the Wizard of Oz. And the witch was really kind of subjecting those flying monkeys. Like, they weren't treated well. I mean, you could say that, yes, they were her loyal minions, but I think there's an argument to be said that maybe they weren't evil, and in fact that what was going on was they were forced into pressed. It was a press gang thing. So they were enslaved, okay? So what you do is you take that story, which is exactly what they did, and said, our space monkeys have been enslaved by something, which is what the original story was, but it's not a witch, because we don't want to throw light on women. That would be bad. We're going to make it a wizard. A wizard enslaved them, and the wizard's apprentice freed the HowtoDand so they could venture forth and then pursue a rather twisted evolution, you might say. I think in terms of what we want from Dungeons and Dragons, I like the strange. I mean, really, we would need a bit more rock and roll and a bit more heavy metal in Dungeons and Dragons, and we're kind of losing that. I think, I mean, I know parents and social media dislike it, but let's get real. If we're adults, we love it. And even the kids love it as soon as they know that the adults like having it and they want to have what the adults have. Like, you know what I mean? If we had a bit more of that, we might go down pretty well. It would go down well, I think. I mean, yeah, we need another... I'm only kidding. We need Should I say this? No, I won't. I'll leave it alone. Okay. Was weighted to only offend some people. Look, you know, you could fart and offend somebody. Like, you know, everybody has to have a cork fitted into their ear. Anyway, curse the tomb. I don't know what they were doing. I don't know what was going on here. Look, there's always something that is considered offensive. I just, yeah. Where this is all going, I don't know. Anyway, let's get it figured about that. Let me have a look. Marketing tactics. Okay, let me just see if I can get past all this. Yeah, Wizards of the Coast wants to move away from printed books. The problem with doing that is not everybody can actually afford their online stuff. And we will lose a lot of material, you know, like things will get lost over time by not having books. So losing books is a bad thing. because, as we see, Volo's Guide to Everything, Volo's Guide to Monsters, sorry, Volo's Guide to Monsters and Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes won't be available. Once all of the printed copies are gone, you won't be able to get it online. You won't get it a PDF unless it's a pirated one. So it won't be available, and that's a sad thing. Nyogi are a fun creature. Equals the worse. So Dan, if you go and watch the live stream I did on Monsters of the Multiverse, I do actually talk about the Hidozi story a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. Yeah, I think, yeah. You're right. I am melting down trying to read the chat. Look, I want to go and look at the Monstrous compendium for Spelljammer and actually have a look at that stuff. So if I skip past you and I don't acknowledge what you've said, don't get upset. Let me just see if I can find anything that sort of stands out. You fixed the Starlight apparitions, AJ? Good to know. I mean, look, I feel like I'm going to be fixing a lot of monsters myself. Anyway, a grain of salt or a line of cocaine, maybe. I mean, really? Maybe. Yeah, something. Like, there's something going on here. Parasitic, the paralytic poison for the Thicreen. Yeah, like that would have been nice to have that there. Is that the one with the space vampire? Yes, that's right. That is the Life Force is the one with the space vampire boobs. Exactly. Ghoul paralysis. yeah. Yes. Okay. Oh my God. I'm almost to the bottom, people. This is. I didn't realize you guys had been chatting so much. Did I have? Patrick Stewart was in Life Force, was he? I don't even notice that. Patrick Stewart was in Life Force. Oh my gosh. Yeah, there was a lot of cartoon silliness in Spelljammer. Oh my God, I'm not being. There's no way. It's growing. How the heck? Okay, that's it. That's it. I'm just scrolling down. Hello, Scott. How are you? I saw your name. I'm sorry if I haven't mentioned anything about what you've said here. Hello, Shiner81. Milton Knowles, the insane Witch King. Hello, how are you? Satori, hello, how are you? Okay, look. I want to get to this thing. Look, this is no good. We've got to get over to look at this compendium. This is where the cool stuff is. Like this is the stuff I really liked. And I mean, there's only one. I think there's one that I was like, don't really like that much. But you know, the rest of it is pretty good. I'll like it. Let's see if this works. I don't know if it will. Okay, all right. Scrolling down, will I have problems? Okay, so if I put my head, my big fat head can go on the other side. If I just do this, drag it over here. Because otherwise I'm going to get in the way. I know it. Transition. See. Look, that worked. Okay, I'm small. It's big. You don't need to see me. It's not that important. All right, so this is the Monstrous Compendium, Volume 1, Spelljammer Creatures. And when I saw this, I was really excited for Spelljammer Creatures. The first thing here is this Eldritch Lich. This Eldritch Lich is like top of my pops in terms of monsters. It reminds me of a monster from a very silly C-grade horror movie that I saw many years ago. But this one has got tentacles as well, and it's a lich. Sweet. Okay, moving down, we have the asteroid spider. And look, basically this is a thing that disguises itself as a rock and then attacks ships. And it's a spider. I think that's far more scary. I mean, if you think about the kind of scare factor you're looking for in your game, this monster has got it in spades. I really like it, and I want it in my book, but I don't get it in my book because apparently they didn't do that. I don't really have a problem so much with the stat block for this thing. I think it does exactly what it's supposed to do. Like, I don't think that there's any problem with the stat block. I haven't looked at it that closely. I tried doing that, and in the end I gave up. But this is cool. I want this in my game. This is definitely top of my pops. Then the Clockwork Horror. The Clockwork Horror, if you look at how it works, it's an automation. It's like an insect, ruthless insect automation. And this reminds me of, and I suppose I haven't shown you the actual artwork because I'm trying to get my phone to actually catch up. Okay. This thing here reminds me of Lex, the TV series. I think it's a German TV series where they had like a flying insect, and the various characters that were on the ship stole it and blasted through space. And this thing, like, it reminds me of one of the critters in there. It's like a replicator, and it was deadly. I mean, it was fundamentally what was going to decimate the entire universe at one point. And I loved this thing the most. It's awesome. I wanted this thing. Like that sort of stuff, that's scary. Do you know what I mean? I want that to be able to do stuff in my game. So interfering with a Spelljammer, lightning jolt's all right. The rotating saw, you kind of expected that. You can see them there. The Eldritch Lich, like, that is so cool. Like, yes, it's a Lich, it's spellcaster. It's got a far realm step, basically it teleports. It's an improved Misty step. But look at this thing. Just if you look at the monster itself, it spells and gives you like nightmares. Like, that's the sort of stuff. It's not going to eat you with its head. You're getting eaten with its stomach. That is so cool. I want that thing in my game. Give me that. Yeah, put that in the book. So a lot of the stuff that they presented, the Fracton. The Fracton kind of reminds me of the Phantom universe, the Phantom Zone from Superman. You know, first Superman, they've got that floating glass thing. I think that's exactly where the idea originally came from. I feel like it might have come from that movie. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it came before that. But I feel like that's where the idea came from. So you get trapped in this other dimension, basically imprisoned. I love the fact that you could wind up with a character imprisoned in there, in a demi-plane. And the fact that if you destroy it, it causes a lot of problems. Anyway, I mean, this is what we want. It doesn't look scary, but what it does is kind of terrifying in many respects. The Gadabout. The Gadabout, it's a space fairy. Okay? I'm not going to say anything more. It's a space fairy. Okay. Oh, dear. Anyway, the Goon Balloon. I thought the Goon Balloon would be something I would dislike, but actually as a monster, I kind of like it a lot. It's really bizarre. It's strange. It's very alien. It's the sort of thing you kind of expect. They actually explode. You know, if you destroy these things, they explode, and they can float. I like the fact that they can float and explode, and exploding does stuff. Yeah, and it's got weird eyes all over it. So yeah, I mean, it's a cool monster. Nightmare Beast. The Nightmare Beast is sort of like your standard, like, cool looking beast with big teeth, tusks, and I mean, it looks like a predator, basically, of some kind. This again, it's pretty good. I'm liking this as well. Top of the hour, Nor Oak, you have reminded me. Yes, I know. The next one is the Puppet Parasite. The Puppet's Parasite is awesome. The idea that you can use a parasite to turn another creature into a little puppet that has no control over themselves, that's Invasion of the Body Snatchers stuff. Like, that's awesome. That's the sort of, that's space virus and space bacteria and space alien creatures that don't look like the stuff that we are used to. I really like this as a concept, and yeah, I would have liked this in the book as well. The Star Lancer. Yeah, well, okay, it's all right. Star Lancer. It's that. That's right. Yeah, it's a Star Lancer. It's a flying pointy shark thing, I believe. Does that make sense? A flying pointy shark thing with the ability to be invisible and has a horn. I mean, if you're gonna have sharks in the game, we've already had sharks with lasers in Aquaman. So I guess we have to have sharks you can ride that fly with wings in a Spelljammer campaign. It's a pretty good, decent monster. The next one I can't pronounce, but it's basically a space tree, an evil space tree. I mean, I guess, were they concerned that if they had starfish plants and then they had the space tree, that would be a problem? It's a big plant. I still think it's a cool monster, though. I don't have an issue quite so much with that. In any case, those are the different monsters in the compendium. I think the compendium does a great job. The book, it's a bit hit and miss for me. It's not quite what I was hoping for. Anyway, let me just go back to the chat, because right now there's no way I can keep up with you on my phone. I've tried to. I can see you guys are talking really, really fast. I'm going to apologize now if I missed you. Yeah, yes, that's right, AJ. The book feels like and smells like thing. So I have no sense of smell, AJ. So my reviews will always be substandard, because I have really bad hay fever, so I can't smell the book. I can feel the book, okay, and I can see the book, but I just can't smell it. You missed the Elder Evil table? Ah, right. Well, maybe that's the video you will make, or maybe that's a video I will make. But in any case, I need to go and take a break. If people want to come back and talk more about this book, I'm happy to do so. I'm going to just, what will I do here? I'm going to put into chat, do you want to talk more? Hashtag, do you want to talk more about the monsters? Monsters of Spelljammer. Come on. Can barely get my little okay, I think I got it right. I'm going to put this in here. That's an @ it's not a hashtag. Fred, can you see the hashtag? No, because I'm wearing glasses and I can't see now. Okay, so that's better. I'm putting this up. I'm going to take a small break. I'm going to leave you with Arnold. If I'm going to talk about this book, I'm probably going to go back to actually looking at the book entries, people, rather than my face. Okay, 5 minutes or less, and I will be back, and then we'll have a chat if you want to. uh, okay. All right, let's have a look and see what people want to do with regard to how we proceed. I would like to just talk about the book a little bit more, but if people have, I mean, I've gone over a lot of it. I mean, I suppose I've done it to death, frankly. So there probably isn't any, there's no necessity to do anything with this. Dave Rosa, hello, how are you? You've run the Eldritch Lich, okay, and the Goon Balloons, right, and a couple others. Kaiju are not in the book. No, we don't get kaiju in the book, unfortunately. I feel like we did need to have like a space Godzilla, but there isn't one. Yeah, well, China 81, I don't think that it got lost. I just don't think that they wanted to put in the book. I think that the selling point was to get people to buy the book and show them this preview, and that was a mistake. What they should have done is they should have just showed you the art and nothing else and said, this is in the book. You want this book. That would have made me more interested in the book. But space guppies and space eels and, you know, space swine, just not quite that exciting. AJ's gone, which is fair enough. I know he's got other things to do, and he's been here for a good hour or more. Okay, now what do we got here? Well, he's got to work. He does this full time, and so he actually has to create content, and you can't do that in a live stream. Well, hang on, we do that, don't we? Here on HowtoDandD, we do make content, but it's a different type of content. Do you know what I mean? It's content. It's not content. It's more like the stuff that you need or might want. So it's a little bit different. Yep, you go back to work. Dungeons and Chronicles. I'm not a space guy. I love Star Wars, so I love this sort of thing. But I want to just have a look at some of the things in this book that I probably didn't go into that much detail on, that frankly I think are actually really, really cool, and I'm glad they put them in here. I just don't know that they're going to be taken well by people. So let me just scroll on back to the book, and I'll make sure I keep the chat nice and big so I can see what I'm doing here and just talk to the book. Does that make sense? So you can see the book, and I'm going to talk to that topic. You're not going to see my face because you don't need to. Who cares about what I look like? Oh, have they shown up in supporting Adventurers League content? And they're on open for the DMs Guild as well. Oh, I didn't realize that. Well, that's not a good sign. So here, look, the Artuk, basically the starfish space plants, the fact that they have like a French kiss tongue attack, and they spit energy. I love that. I think these are great. I like these. I would want to use them. Look, if I was going to go horror, space, or just goofy, Day of the Triffids would be high on my list. But then again, I've watched Day of the Triffids as a mini-series, as a movie, as a TV series. I mean, good Lord, I've watched Day of the Triffids till it went out of popularity. So I'm all for this as a monster in this book. I like that. That one was fine. I couldn't care about Astral Elves. Couldn't care less, frankly. I know you've got to have something. The Autognome, for me, the Autognome just needed to have more. I don't have an issue with the Autognome. I love the fact that it has this malfunction thing going on here, which is kind of weird. But the reality is, it doesn't give me enough. Look at all the space at the top that could have been used, and they didn't use it. David Rosa, I don't know which book you're talking about. I'm not sure which book you're talking about. You'd have to tell me what book you're talking about. The Brexit, this thing here, I don't quite understand why this is an astral space monster or creature. And did you notice the artwork piece itself? does not look finished. It looks like it's half complete, or it's such a different style to everything else, it doesn't kind of fit in the book. But there's this conceptual art here, this huge section. This does nothing for the book. It does nothing. And they could have extended that. There's a whole lot of extra text that you could include. In fact, this image here could have been shifted further up, and you would have had a lot more space just to talk about the Brexit and actually give it something, because it doesn't have very much going on for it right now. I haven't run Spelljammer yet, but when I do, I will run like Feywild. Okay, crazy, chaotic. Fair enough. Book of Day of the Triffids. Oh yes, the Day of the Triffids. Yeah, I've read the book a really long time ago though. I actually struggled reading that book. This monster here, the Borag. When I looked at it first, I was like, oh, it's a giant. Like, oh, that sucks. The only time, and it was only last night that I changed my mind about this monster. Not because of its lore, because there's not much there going on. The only thing, its redeeming feature, is the fact that it has horrendous rend, which means that when you rend a player character, in other words, when they reach 0 hit points, you get to tear them into 4 pieces and then toss them over your shoulder, basically. And that I love. I think that's fantastic. That's this kind of terror that you can inflict on your players' characters that will be lasting. It's like, I fought this thing and it ripped me into 4 bits and threw me over its shoulder. I mean, seriously, that is so cool. That is itself the only reason why I'm interested in this. This I don't know what to do with, because they're trying to avoid everybody, even though it wants to be helpful. I don't really care for much for this one. The Cosmic Horror, we had to have Cthulhu in there at some point, so I'm fine. Yeah, let's have Cthulhu. Penguins with capes, I don't care for. Do you care about penguins with capes? The aesthetic, the actual spaceship jellyfish thing, is actually really good. Yeah, you get quartered, Shiner 81. That giant quarters you. It's look, I've never seen Wizards of the Coast put a mechanic into the game that is that tough, that ruthless. Apart from maybe the Banshee. No, even the Banshee's not that bad as bad as that. They're not walking it off with Healing Word. No. David Rosa, if you like Chewinga, that's cool. I just don't know what to do with him. Cosmic Horror, Kaiju. I don't know that I would consider it Kaiju. I just feel like the Cosmic Horror just looks like Cthulhu to me. I don't think it's Kaiju. Kaiju looks to me like something else. You got to go. I'll see you later. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for being here. The Monger is hilarious in that it seems to be designed to actually swallow spellcasters. And would you believe it? This thing here has a feature that will actually shut down spellcasters. My only issue with it is it doesn't do much else. I mean, you can certainly hide it from your player characters, and then of course you then pop your eye open and go straight for the wizard. I love playing wizards, but I have no problem with my dungeon master eating my character first. Okay? Because they should be eaten first before they fireball you. Do you know what I mean? That's all part and parcel of the fun. I fireball you, you eat me. Okay? How's this going to help me? Anyway, this monster's been around for ages. And I think when you play and use this monster, your idea is to keep bringing it back and torturing the players by just draining more energy out of them, draining more hit points off them. Night after night. I used to do this with Night Hags in Curse of Strahd, which is really fun. And it's an interesting ability. It does a lot of cool stuff. So the last thing you want to do this is make this a straight up fight. I just don't feel like this is the right sort of thing. And then of course the players are like, why am I losing all these? Why am I feeling so bad at the end of my long rest? So they're going to have to figure out how to determine what's going on while they're resting, because the creature's around. The Giant Wetter. The Giant Wetter is fine. I mean, as I said, if you're going to make any kind of insect, a spacefaring insect, then a New Zealand weta is pretty much it. Let's go with that. And, you know, Mind Probe, I feel like Mind Probe should do something more, though. I want it to do something more scary. Like, I want it to be able to control your mind completely in some way, not just steal information. I want it to be able to actually control your mind. And maybe suck the brain juice out as well. You know, a little bit like Starship Troopers and the big brain bug. I kind of want it to be a bit like that, but a bit more mobile, because the big brain bug wasn't very mobile. The GIF, interesting concept. Don't think it was done very well here. Githyanki, we kind of know about Githyanki from the Monster Manual. The Hadozi, again, I love, but then again, I love the Wizard of Oz, and this brings me right back to the Wizard of Oz, frankly. The Jammer Leech, probably out of all of the monsters here, I think it's probably the best designed. Again, I would say that maybe the image of the picture is just got too much space at the top. I mean, we don't want to jam up the page too much, but look, you know, real estate on a page for a book is valuable, and leaving lots of big empty spaces is a bad sign. What it shows me is that they didn't have to cut very much from the lore section that was written for it because they didn't write enough. Oh, yes. Okay, William, I remember the reference. You find the idea of a bug with a brain absurd. Yeah, okay. And this is Fantasia. This is Disney's Fantasia basically going on here. I like Fantasia. I've watched it a few times. It's a good time. The ancient lunar dragon, or the lunar dragons, full stop. Again, I think this should have been in the book. I have no problems with it being here. The megapede, I mean, I suppose another insect is a good idea. I feel like the megapede was probably done better in, was it the Tome of Beasts? Tome of Beasts by Kobold Press. There was a megapede of some kind, or some sort of centipede creature, and I think they did it better there, in my opinion. And this here, the Mercane, I feel like they could just call it the Arcane and be done with it. Like, why change the name? Because that's what they have essentially done here. And there's not enough going on here. Like, I mean, I love the fact that we've got a nice big piece of artwork, but there's just not quite enough going on here for me. It's hard to incorporate stories, monsters, into a story if they don't have their own story, because that's Dungeons and Dragons. Solar Dragons are crazy fun too. I mean, Noroak, I think the Solar Dragon is definitely scary as when I looked at the lair actions in particular. I'll get back to that in a second. I'm fine with the Murder Comet. I'm fine with this creature here, which is terrifying in every respect. But again, you see how they've laid it out. There's huge big space, blank space up here and here. There's a lot of blank space. I didn't comment on that fact. I mean, heck, there's a huge amount of space here, and yet you're telling me you could not figure out how to position this and lay it out so that you could put more information in there? Apparently not. It's weird. It's really strange. But yes, they should be here in the book. Absolutely. The Plasmoid. I'm fine with having a big section on Plasmoid. The fact that we have a Plasmoid boss is kind of entertaining too. Do you know what I mean? And then this one, definitely one of my favorites. The Persilon. Is it the Persilon? I think it's the Persilon. When I saw this, I thought, oh gosh, somebody's really gone the extra mile. Like I think my favorite is the one that has the two heads, or the two mouths, like the two ends. You know, it's the mutant version. You know what this reminds me of? Does anybody remember the old, not Dr. Seuss? Oh gosh, he loves animals, and he's a doctor. And they made a movie with Robert Downey Jr. recently that was really, really bad. And for the life of me, I can't remember what the movie was called. But I remember he looked after animals, and he was a doctor. And it reminds me of this. It reminds me of the push you, pull you creature in that movie. It's a very old movie where they took it to a circus because it was like crazy, and it had 2 heads, and this one has 2 heads, and it kind of looks like a horse, but it's a worm, so it's gone the extra mile. I feel like maybe somebody's watched that movie and decided we can do better. Oh, thank you, William. Dr. Dolittle. That's Dr. Dolittle. Not quite Doctor Who, no, Dr. Dolittle. You guys are all got it. You know what I'm talking about. So the original Dr. Dolittle movie, what was his name? I can't remember who the actor was. I love that movie, and the push you pull you is the most ridiculous thing to have in there. But this reminds me of that, and this is why I love this monster a lot. And you know, there's a reasonable amount of stuff going on here. I certainly feel this one I don't like. I'm just going to skip right past it. Sorry, I like their spaceship, but they suck. This is basically just a space shark. I don't really care for this at all. The Solar Dragon, though, man, the Solar Dragon rocks. The kind of things that if you want to scare your players, this will do it. Like this is the thing you want to have. Why? It's because of those legend. The lair actions are just astronomical. The fact that you might take 24 D10 damage from radiant damage as part of the stellar incineration. That's 132 hit points. Jerry Lewis? No, I don't think Jerry Lewis was in Dr. Dolittle. It was somebody else. Yeah, I can't remember who his name was. He was. I don't know. Did he do a lot of movies? He was in My Fair Lady. I'm an old guy. Okay, people. So this feature, this lair action is so wonderful. And then the other one here, the Blinding Radiance, is pretty good too. But this stellar incineration. I mean, the fact is, trying to get into its lair itself is going to be almost impossible to deal with unless you have immunity to fire. Otherwise, you're just going to burn up. If you can't survive in a fire environment, you die. Like, you won't need to... Resistance won't be helpful at all. This is the sort of thing that you want in high-level multi-travel adventures. This is the sort of shit that I love. This is great. These are awesome. And then I actually really like the space clowns. I mean, they are sick. I mean, they're twisted and sick, and we want more twisted and sick. These here, just skip them. Like, who cares? I mean, I don't care about that. I mean, I suppose we have to have it. It's there. You've got the hamsters, the space hamsters. Mollymocks and flying pigs, I don't give a toss about. I don't care about them at all. I don't think this belongs here. I think that these, basically the Sauron, were basically space lizards. I don't think they should exist here. I think that it was the wrong move. I think they should have created something else. Or they should have given us a bit more. I mean, maybe the answer was not to have 2 stat blocks and to give us a bit more information on them. Because what do you do with it now? What's that, Norok? If you find yourself fighting something from the sun, you have already made many bad decisions to get to that point. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely, I agree. The Starlight Apparition is basically a space ghost as far as I'm concerned. It's alright, it can be there. The Thicreen, I love the Thicreen. I don't know that it necessarily had to be here. There was another insect species that existed in Spelljammer. I think we could have used them. But the Thicreen, you know, they still kind of fill the gap. And vampires, got to have vampires. I think, frankly, because they can do so much. And there's a place for including really bad, old science fiction horrors into your Dungeons and Dragons game, because essentially that's what you're trying to do. And I mean, look, Life Force was a scary movie. I was terrified of the fact, like, oh, she's very pretty, but she will kill you. Do you know what I mean? And these things do a lot. And then the final one here, I love the fact that I can cast Wish with a creature and just undermine a high level group very, very easily. It is I mean, whether it's going to do that, because you don't know what its motives are. Like, what is it actually trying to do? I feel like this is an unknown factor. So, yeah, but I still like the fact that it's here. That's a monster that I'm happy to have in the book. In any case, that was what I wanted to say just briefly about the book. I don't think I have anything else to say. I'm ready to lose my voice. I'm going to recommend to all of you that you go and check out, if you're in North America, go check out the Amazon website. I have links in the community tab. If you want books and you're interested in some of them, I personally think you should go grab Volo's Guide to Everything before it's gone, because you won't be able to get it after that. I know a lot of people don't like Volo's Guide to Everything, and that's fine. But I can assure you that I'll be basing a lot of my future classes, particularly around locations, on a lot of the stuff that's in that book. Do you know why? Because I don't know that it's anywhere else. Like, where else are you going to get that kind of level of detail and information? Volo's Guide to Monsters set a new bar, and where you not only got monsters, but you got information about those monsters and where they live and how they work and how to use them. It's all the sort of stuff that takes up a lot of space and time and is super useful for a dungeon master, particularly if they're doing their own thing. If you're new and you're not making your own stuff, you won't ever use it. Do you know what I mean? But I mean, I really like it. Okay, I'm going to head off. I'm going to go and watch tonight Black Panther 2 with my mum. I'm looking forward to seeing this movie, so don't say anything about it, please. I've heard some people say bad things, some people say good things, so I'm going to use my own discretion, and my own opinion will come into play by actually just going and seeing the movie. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. And also looking forward to Avatar 2 coming out in the future. What will I be doing next week at the same time and day? Next week, I think I'm going to talk about The Light of Xeraxis, the adventure for Spelljammer. Okay, I'm going to talk about that. I think that the adventure itself may be one of the redeeming factors in this set of books. Do you know what I mean? I think that book, that adventure book, might be the redeeming factor for me. But I haven't had a close enough look to decide. Yeah, Volo's got some really nice maps and a lot of lore and a lot of information about their lairs, and those maps are monster lairs, you know, and that's why I recommend, if you can get it, go get it before it's no longer available, because you'll never get it after that. It'll just be so hard, you know. So yeah, grab it while you can. Anyway, I am ready to pass out. So I just want to say thank you to my patrons. I want to thank everybody who's been part of the live stream or watched my live stream. Thank you very much. And a big thank you to AJ Pickett for making an appearance and hanging out for an hour with me. I know he's a busy guy. And yeah, it was fun. I see you guys had a good time chatting with him. And clearly he had a good time too, which is great. So yeah, I want to thank everybody for watching the replays of my live streams and my edited videos and putting up with my little shorts. I kind of have to do the shorts. YouTube doesn't like me if I don't do them, so I have to do them. And yeah, I just want to thank everybody in general who has been really behind the channel, because I know it's been struggling. And I do more content than I've ever done. I do 10 times more than I ever did before, and yet I'm still struggling. Why is that? I don't understand. And it's because I'm aging out. I know this. So thank you for your support. So wherever you are in the world, whether it be the morning, the afternoon, or the night, or the wee early morning, please look after yourself and your family and your friends. Be nice to your neighbours. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. And for those of you who are celebrating Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving.